Justice.
Sechs, sechs, sechs.
It's Spook Show. Jason Shepard back. Another Monday for the mind. Boils and ghouls. It's time to get your mind right. With Jason Shepard. All Spooktober long.
We've been here a long time.
What's that?
They feel like the wolf pack with the wolf howl at the end.
This month's intro, it's the sound design for me. It's the little details, you know.
A lot of little details I snuck in there. Some good movies, some nice little screams in the background, and a past song that I just played in reverse. So,
Fun fact, giving away all the secrets.
spooky factors all around.
Hell yeah. And today, getting spooky with us, we got Steven Taylor joining us.
Yeah. Hey,
How's it going?
good. How you guys doing?
Not too bad.
Pretty
It's
good,
a
man.
Monday.
Yeah.
It's a Monday. I got this fresh sweater in the mail today.
I did.
Well, yes.
I did
Oh,
that.
nice.
It's like a
look at
Christmas.
mine. Got everybody
that's-
on it.
That
I'm
one's dope,
slacking
too.
over here.
It's like a Christmas sweater, but it's for Halloween because I thought, Christmas doesn't deserve all the fun.
Come to think of it, I'm not sure if I have any like horror attire. Come to think of it.
Really?
Yeah. A lot of superhero shit.
I've got a lot thanks to working at Spirit and then Walmart, man. Walmart up in the game. Lots of Nightmare on Elm Street, lots of Child's Play t-shirts.
I've got
see
a
them
few things.
all the time. I just feel like I've never pulled the trigger on anything, I guess.
My oldest son stole my Nightmare on Elm Street. I had the Nightmare on Elm Street T-shirt. Was probably one of the first ones, and he stole it. So
Can't be mad at that.
no,
Can't be mad
no,
at that.
I'm good with it.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be upset if my son started stealing some of my shirts. I'd be like, all right, I'm in style,
yeah.
pretty much,
They're wearing the same clothes as me now, anyway. So I gotta actually tell you guys a story about that anyway. But because first off, I just want to say like Exorcism, Chase and Shep, I loved it. I mean, it just yeah. I've watched it. I've watched both versions of it, and then I showed it to my kids this weekend. So and they loved it. They had a good time with it. So yeah, that was pretty fun. The they laughed in all the right spots and everything. My oldest, one of the funniest parts for me was my oldest was reading the credits, and he says, "Mercedes De Silva, that's a cool name." So
It is, yeah.
It is.
yeah, no, they did really enjoy it, and I've enjoyed it. And
That's
I
what's
thought
up.
I think the black and white like came off as creepier to me.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that, but like I'd watched the other one first, just the regular cut, and then I'm watching the black and white, and I'm like, there's some of those moments, especially when you first see Shep, when you first see you in the kitchen, that was a lot creepier than I remembered it being the first time I watched it. So
I do like the Chase when he hit me and said I got this black and white version coming out, and it reminds me of those old black and white monster movies that I'd be watching growing up and shit,
Yep.
on in the middle of the night. And it is a whole separate vibe from the original, but it's good. I did dig it.
yeah, no, me too. I mean, that's a thing about like I guess we're talking a little bit about favorite horror and that sort of thing anyway. So one of the things with me is I have two kind of favorites. Like when it comes to horror's got all these different subgenres to it, and the jump scares and the scares are one of them. So like a lot of those old black and white and old movies, that's what they were pretty much. I mean, they didn't have a lot of the gore and that. Of course, my other end of that is that my gore is the other favorite, like Saw and things like that. So I like those two the best. But
It's funny you say that actually, because I think I've figured out like what my like favorite type of horror film is, and that's because last night I watched Return of the Living Dead for the first time,
oh, nice.
and I'm like, it's official. It's got to be the horror comedies for me, but the ones that commit to both ends of it, like that are just as much a horror movie as they are comedies.
Yeah.
So, something like Shaun of the Dead, Cabin in the Woods, Evil Dead, just all of these. Night of the Demons. I was watching Night of the Demons earlier today. Like shit like that just really trips my trigger.
All favorites of mine. It's like picking a favorite would be impossible. I did at one point in time, I was looking at trying to make a favorite list of just movies overall.
Mm-hmm.
And we were going to try and narrow it down to about 100. I got to 500, and that was as close as I could get. And I mean, horror movies would be just as complicated if I had to try to narrow it down. There'd just be no way.
Man, Return of the Living Dead was
It's
like
so
a few years back. I discovered Candyman and Killer Clowns from Outer Space for the
Nice.
first time, and now they're two of my favorites. I watch them like every year. And this year for me, it was American Werewolf in London and Return of the Living Dead. I mean, holy shit! Both of those movies, I'm just like, dude, how have I not seen these movies? Especially Return of the Living Dead, because I love the Living Dead movies and all of like Romero's, and I knew that they kind of branched off and everything. But I just never seen I loved Romero so much. I was almost like, I can, maybe not, but man, holy shit, I love that.
No,
movie.
it's
Like,
one
I
of
just
the
love the
best.
structure of it, like the acting in it. I was just like the characters, and that's something I feel like that and Killer Clowns, like it's like the characters are just so, like big and the scenarios are so fun and just, but at the same time, like you get some stuff in there that's kind of really creepy,
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Like the Killer Clowns, I watched that when I was pretty young, but like I'm not one of those people that's afraid of clowns, so that didn't do it for me. But
Mhm.
like just the laughs in that were amazing to me. I mean, flesh eating popcorn and
Yes.
spoilers for anybody that hasn't seen it, but you haven't, go see it.
Yeah, you need
Yeah.
to. It is
And
making a
Return-
big
Go
like
ahead.
a big swing. It is making a big swing, it seems like, popular wise. Killer Clowns, they've got
without a doubt.
Halloween costumes. Funko keeps throwing them out. I was like, I'm gonna start collecting. They only got 3 of them out. I'll collect, and now they got like 10. So it's like I'm seeing people catch on to the Killer Clown train, and it hypes me up because I've watched that, like you were saying, since I was younger, and I've always loved it.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, I remember I saw it when I was younger, and then you couldn't find anything Killer Clowns. It was even hard to find the movie at one point. And then all of a sudden now it's just everywhere. I mean, the Halloween store and all that you can get figures and t-shirts and costumes and all that, which it's a good time.
Absolutely, it's a good time to be a Killer Clowns fan. That's for sure.
It is, man. Eating good if you're a Killer Clown fan.
Return of the Living Dead was the same way. I mean, there's so much to that movie that's so good, and the laughs in it and just some of the effects were some of my favorite. I'm probably going to say it wrong. I think it's like the Tar Zombie or something like that. It's just that's one of the best. And I mean, it's recreated all the time. People are always making models and masks and different things like that for it. So
yeah, it was excellent, and now it's probably one I'm going to watch every year. I'm sure
it's made the list. It's made its list.
It's made the list. I think at some point I'm going to have a solid like 31 movies that I absolutely have to watch every October.
Man, I don't think I could break it down to that.
There's a few, like there's movies that I like to watch on certain dates. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to watch, like, I was trying to get a list with my girlfriend together so we could marathon it on Halloween. And she was like, Nightmare Before Christmas is one of my favorites. And I'm like, okay, see, I always watch that on November 1st
Right.
Yeah.
myself because, I was like right at the beginning, the mayor's all sad, 364 days till Halloween. I'm like, it just fits right then and there. So it's like, I always reserve that for that specific day. But like, man,
And I always watch it as a Christmas movie. I never watch it as I know it's, what it is, but I always stick it towards that end of Christmas after Thanksgiving or end of Halloween after Thanksgiving. And then I watch it then.
Oh yeah. I always watch it around Christmas as well too, just because it's a vibe, man.
Yeah.
Right.
I've already watched Tree Venge once this year, so
I'm ready to bust it. It's funny because like in October, after a while, I'll get a little sick of the horror movies after a while.
Right.
Especially if you get on like a few years ago, I like marathoned a lot of like franchises that really killed it. By the end of October, I
Oh,
was
yeah.
like, because you see certain formulas play out to their endless stupidity sometimes, and it's just
Yep.
like, oh my gosh, like Final Destination. I was getting so frustrated because I love those movies. I think they're a lot of fun, but watching them back to back to back like that, I'm like, just to be clear, there are all these fucking news articles about all these people who did the same exact shit that you did, and then you're like, oh well, we've got to do this thing because that's what they did. It's like you're reading the fucking article that says that they died. Why are you
Right.
still like, the proof is there. You don't have to do this. It wears on your nerves after a while. But something about, November, get a little food in you, and then come December, I'm ready for all that holiday horror,
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, and plus you got a good chunk of Christmas horror movies that you can run with as well.
Hell, it's in high supply lately.
Black Christmas and oh, my mind just
Black
went blank on a
Christmas,
couple of-
and then there's also the other Black Christmas,
Right.
which all three versions.
There's a yeah.
that's true.
The
There's a ton. We went through a ton of them. That's how we started doing everything, was going through a ton of the Christmas horror slays. And it feels like that list is doubled with brand new movies since we've done that.
right. Well, yeah. No, it's been. I just watched one not too long ago that was really good. The Christmas tapes. If you guys ever get a chance to check that one out, excellent film. It's an anthology, but it was really pretty good. I enjoyed it. That one's a good one. I know what you're saying. Like with this is like the time of year. I mean, I like the horror all year long, but this is that time of year. And at one point, I tried to get a bunch of people together to watch all the Friday the 13th. And I think at the time there was only the 8. They hadn't even done the remakes yet. So we were going to try and just like actually start it in the morning and just keep going until we got through that Jason Takes Manhattan. And that never happened. I think I tried it once and I got to, maybe 4 or 5. And I'm like, do I need to do this? Not really.
I actually,
Right, yeah.
that was my plan for this Friday the 13th, because the last few that have gone by, every time I'm like, damn it, like I really wanted to go home and watch a Friday the 13th movie. And this, with it being October and everything, I'm like, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to marathon these things. Because the first time I did that, I think it was 2017. And I'd seen the original and the 2009 remake and Freddy vs. Jason. Those were the only ones I'd seen. So my buddy I was living with at the time was like, oh, well, we're watching every single one of them. And so over the course of like 2 or 3 days, we binged through all of them. And that was the first time I saw most of them. And I felt like I enjoyed them more as they got a little bit more ridiculous. But yeah, I can't stand the first Friday the 13th. I think it's boring as hell. And I popped in Friday the 13th Part 2 on the 13th. And I was like, yeah, I don't know about this one either. I'm like, hopefully I can get back into it. But yeah, that marathon did not come.
No, I
come
get
back.
it, because that first one it's weird. And I've actually known a couple people that have watched the remake first, and then they go back and watch the original Friday the 13th, and they don't get it at all. Why?
Yeah. I don't know.
I could see it back when they came out. You know what I'm saying? You
sure.
have the original story of the mom getting revenge on the kids that let her kid die, and then they're like, "Well, how can we make a sequel to this? Well, how about if the kid
Right.
comes back and he's you know?" And I could see that. But yeah, but I don't know, man.
Especially
I love
growing up
those
with the
movies.
hockey mask version of Jason, and that's what you grow up like knowing before. Because we've talked before about knowing the icon before you've ever seen the movie.
Oh,
And
right.
like that's one of those things where, like, as a kid, I grew up knowing Jason Voorhees, but I hadn't seen the movies. And then, you know, when you sit down to watch those movies for the first time, and that's not what you get for at least 2 whole movies, you know, it's a little jarring. You're just like, wait a minute, I thought this was
And
about a
I
guy in a
think
hockey.
there's only a few that are that iconic too. I mean, you've
Uh-huh.
got Jason, Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers,
Mhm.
maybe now the Ghostface killer
Yeah,
that might be in there. But I mean, I can't think. You know, I guess the puppet from Saw maybe,
yeah.
but
Chucky,
there's Chucky.
Willie.
Yep,
Leatherface.
yep.
Yeah.
There's a few of them, but yeah, they're all from back in the day. If you really think about it, I do laugh though because every time now I watch Friday the 13th, Chase, I think about the one thing that you hit me up and told me when you're like, "This motherfucker busts through a window in every single one of these movies."
I told you, I became obsessed with it. That first time we did the marathon, it was a detail that I noticed in like the first few movies. And then I looked for it in every movie after, and
Oh, yeah.
be damned,
It's
there's a
there.
scene in every single movie. I'm like, okay, they're going to space. Maybe not this time. Fuck no. They put him in
Nope.
like that simulator or whatever, breaks windows. And
He
it
still
all
busted
builds
through
up.
one.
It all builds up to Freddy versus Jason, where he runs Freddy through a whole row of windows. And then, you know, it was a nice surprise when that's a move in the video game too. It's to fucking
is
break
it?
through the windows. I'm like,
That's awesome.
man, the only thing Jason Voorhees hates more than camp counselors
His
is
windows.
fucking panes of glass.
He's like, "That's an easy way to get in there." Ah! No, I like it. I laugh every time I watch it now because I'm like, "Where's it at?" Every time you see someone standing by a window, I'm like, "Here it comes, man. He's about to go
Honestly,
through that shit."
my disappointment in was it Jason X when he's in space?
Yes.
I fully expected the whole time that he was gonna like bust out a window in the space station and motherfuckers were gonna like go out into space. It didn't
That
happen.
that would have been a way to go, probably.
Yeah.
They didn't
I-
have the technology at the time.
Yeah.
You guys think you could actually pick a favorite horror movie?
Well, not too long ago, we did a top 10 of our horror movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we had narrowed it down, which I'm not going to lie, since then,
It's
I'd have to think
changed.
about some things, and it's definitely changed. But there's a lot
it
is the
is.
same. There was only like a handful that I'm like, do they really belong in my top 10? I don't know. But the heat was on, and we were doing the show, so you know you have to make a choice. But I still think I just as a horror movie, I love Rosemary's Baby. There's just something about it.
Oh, yeah. It's a good
It's
one.
you know, but like I said, you know that's like my genre split is like the horror comedy stuff that's just super absurdist, like ridiculous, gory. But then you've got stuff like Rosemary's Baby and Candyman and like all this shit that's like more serious, you know, in its tone. I don't know. I love a good dramatic, you know, whatever you want to call them.
No, yeah, no.
Atmospheric. I like atmospheric.
Atmospheric. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Impossible to have a favorite.
It's
Yeah.
like with music,
I
you know.
agree
I
with
feel like
Mercedes.
I go through vibes, so it just really
Yeah.
depends on what I'm going through and where I'm at in life. But if you ask me like who's your favorite band, it's like, well, currently this one's my favorite.
Right.
Right,
And I feel
yeah.
like that's how it is when someone's like, "What's your favorite horror movie?" It's like, well, currently it's, you know,
Yeah.
the Evil Dead 2. But like catch me a year from now, I might see something else that hits me good that I'm like, no, this one's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's the vibe and the whatever you're going through in your life makes a big difference on which ones you like. Now, what's funny is the opposite end of that. I can tell you the movies that no, I don't know the opposite end. That's maybe the wrong way to say it, but I can tell you that there's only a few movies that actually affected me in a way that like or even maybe traumatized me.
Mhm.
And that's Poltergeist, The Exorcist, a really weird one, Wes Craven, Shocker, if you guys have ever seen that.
Haven't
And
seen.
then there's one called The Exorcism of Michael King and The Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Okay.
Emily Rose, I'll never watch again. Never,
Yeah.
ever, ever.
I
I-
actually just got a copy of that movie because if it's one guy who's kind of consistently scarred me for life, it's Scott Derrickson. So
Yep.
I'm very interested to watch it.
Yeah, give it a watch. It scarred me for months.
Oh shit!
As an adult, it scarred me for months. So like Poltergeist, I saw when I was it would probably be 8 or 9 years old, and I'll give you a story about that. I watched this movie, and there's some decent stuff that happens in that. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but
Which one?
there's a scene where the son is in his bedroom and he's trying to sleep, and it's storming outside, and there's a tree in the yard that's weird. I think they're trying to put in a pool, if I remember right. And he's got this freaky little clown, which I should be afraid of clowns. You would think I would be
Right.
after this scene. But so that scene just stuck with me. And at the time, 8, 9 years old, we lived in this big old country farmhouse. And it, like, to the point, this place had like wood burning stove, didn't have central air, central heat. So in the winter, a lot of time, if it got really, really cold, we would sleep in my parents' room, and we'd have like a little space heater. So we had this little mattress on the floor, and I see Poltergeist, and I watch this clown. I watch this kid look under the bed, look back over to where the clown's supposed to be, look under bed again, and then get pulled under the bed by this clown. Then I go home that night and have to sleep on the floor staring underneath my parents' bed.
Yeah.
So for years, like that
Yeah.
one just, it stuck with me.
That's funny.
Never, and I don't like watching it still to this day.
And that one. That's one that's in my top 10 for sure.
Oh
Poltergeist.
yeah. No, it's definitely a good one, but I just don't want to watch it.
I've overcame my childhood fear. Mine was Chucky, and yeah, I'd be watching, like, I watch the TV show on right now and whatnot. So like I mess with Chucky big time, but I feel that because it was the same. Because I know after I saw that shit and was terrified, I went to preschool and they had a probably not a good guy doll, but what looked to be a good guy doll, and I was just not there for it. I was like, no, I don't want to be here. And I don't remember this, but my mother tells me this, and I'm like, yeah, Chucky was terrifying.
The story my mom loves to bring up all the time, and the first time I can remember being scarred by horror was actually Goosebumps. It was the
Oh,
haunted
right on.
mask, and she said all the time I'd go around doing this thing, and she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I can't get my mask off. I can't get my mask off," all the time. But like, I made her turn that shit off. Like, it freaked me out as a kid. But at the same time, it's like you get that taste, you get terrified, and then you're just like jonesing for it. a little
Oh yeah,
bit,
you still love
whether
it.
you
though.
realize it or not, because like it scarred me for life. But I'll be damned when I went to the book fair and see all these Goosebumps books if I'm not snatching them up,
There's
still
a
watching
lot.
the show.
Blair Witch, that got me back when that came out because I remember seeing that in theaters and being like,
Yeah.
this is fucked up. And then my mom and all them, they wanted to stop by the woods on our way home and be like, come on here, we're going to go into the woods, right? And I was like, y'all, I will leave you here. I will drive. I don't know how to drive, but I will drive. And, back when that movie came out, though, we didn't know, at least I didn't know, those people were actors or nothing. So I think until
Right.
I saw them on like the MTV VMAs or something that year, I thought those people was all dead or whatnot. When I saw them on there giving out an award, I was like, oh, okay, but
I
it's all-
had a weird experience with Blair Witch because I didn't see it in the theaters, and I knew all the hype about it. That is it real? Is it not real? But somebody had given me a bootleg copy that was on VHS. And
Nice.
kids, VHSs are these little square things that we used to put inside a machine and watch the movie. But no way, I watched this thing, and it was such a different experience for me than anybody else I knew because this was a really bad copy of it. So it added to that found footage type thing to where
Yeah.
like this looked like it had almost been destroyed. Like some of the scenes were almost completely, they weren't even visible. It was just the, you know, lines and waves and static and everything. And when I actually went and saw the, you know, DVD version, I think it was, I was like, oh, that's not as good.
We just talked recently about me having a similar experience with Paranormal Activity when it came out. I didn't see it in theaters, and my uncle had a bootleg copy. So when you just have this disc with Sharpie on it, it says Paranormal Activity, and then you pop it in, there's no menus, no nothing, and you just
Yep.
start watching this movie, and it had the alternate ending, and so I was just like, wow, like holy shit, that scared the shit out of me. I ran home, and I don't even remember my feet hitting the ground. I was just like. It's like I'm out of here, dude.
I wish, man. I wish there was something these days that could get me that scared, like that running up the, you know, turning the basement light off and taking off up the stairs type of scared. Something's gonna grab you.
The boogeyman did that to me a little bit. I like the creature design in that new Boogeyman movie that just came out. Had me
Yeah.
creeped out just enough to run and jump into bed that night. I was just like, fuck that.
I need to finish.
It's always
watching
weird to me.
that.
It's a
I
good
was-
one. It
like
was
half
pretty
of it.
decent. I actually saw that one in the theater. It's always funny to me the things that do creep you out.
Mhm.
I remember I would have been probably right out of high school when A New Nightmare came out, which is the Nightmare on Elm Street where Freddy comes into the real world and goes after everybody. And for whatever reason, that one got me. And I don't have any explanation for that.
Oh,
It's
here we
not
go.
the best of them, but oh yeah, The Fourth Kind got me. That one's a good one too.
That one
But
definitely got me.
I sat in my car for an hour and a half after that movie with my girlfriend, who was also just as freaked out because we could not open the doors and get out of the car. We couldn't physically do it because we were so creeped out by New Nightmare.
That is a good one. I do really like that one. But The Fourth Kind, that was different, man. Like I said, I got shown that while I was in the Navy. And, you know, we just like get thumb drives from each other and pull a bunch of movies off and whatnot. And I walked in one day and my buddies was watching that. And I'm like, what is this? And they're like, dude, it's a movie where like, you know, they got footage and then they like movie shot footage. And I was like, for real? Word? And they're like, yeah. And I watched that. And that one was probably one of the last that scared the fucking shit out. I was like, why the fuck are people not talking about this movie? Why are we not going up to Alaska and seeing what the hell's going on in this city? And
Yeah.
it was years until somebody was like, it's fake. And I'm like, what? And they're like, the whole thing is fake. And I'm like, no, it's not. Like the parts that they filmed was. And then they told me what a mockumentary was, and I was like, oh.
It was creepy though. I remember watching that one and being a
It
little
is.
bit creeped
It
out.
is. I think they did a fantastic job at it. I mean, they got me, so like, I can't hate. Freddy Krueger was always one of my favorites growing up, though. I don't know what it was about it. I mean, I know he went very more comedy, but that was
Yeah.
one, even as a kid, I felt like I could watch those. And even Friday the 13th, I felt like wasn't too terrifying when I was a kid. I didn't like my brother and sister used to, because I was the youngest one. So they used to like call me upstairs, and I'd go in my brother's room, and they'd shut the door with the lights off, and they'd start doing the ch-ch-ch-ch. I didn't like that, but I was
Freddy's
very
always
vocal.
been one of my favorites too.
Freddy-
You're right though. It started. It's you know, you watch the first one and it's a different feel and a different vibe than the other movies. My favorites are actually probably 3 and 4. I think those are probably the ones I like the best because that, you know, that horror comedy thing it's gold when they do it right.
I just prefer my Freddy Krueger comical, I guess.
Yep.
You know?
I do too.
I've said before, and it's the same thing with like the Killer Clowns. Like a Looney Tunes esque villain is terrifying to me. You know, like when this villain can literally just do whatever a Looney Tune does, like that is terrifying because they could just flatten you like pancake. You know, like they could do all sorts of things that don't apply to your laws of physics. You know, and it's just like something about that. It's just very scary to me. You know, same with like Chucky. There's that also there's that thing with like humor and horror too, where it's like the humor kind of shuts your guard down a little bit, and then you know there's something scarier. You're kind of that being comforted into it in a way.
Yeah, I feel
balance.
that.
You know, I always had my soft spot for Michael. I still to this day, he's
Oh.
still my favorite.
I still love him too, no, without a doubt. And it's funny because like you're right about Child's Play too, because my favorites of that are not really the first couple. It's more as you get a little bit further into it where there's a little more comedy added into it. I like that version of Chucky a little better than I mean, there's lots of creepy doll movies, so
Right.
but yeah, it gets a little bit better. What did Mercedes say? Freddy versus Jason?
Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
That was a good one. I still remember driving to cinemas the night that one dropped because you know every place we went were sold out showings and shit like that. So we had to keep going until we finally found one. But I always just wish that they found like had a definitive winner at the end.
When my brother showed me Killer Clowns, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" And ended up loving it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Killer
love
That's how it happens
Clowns.
for most people.
Holy shit.
Holy shit. Fucking, you know, speaking of a movie that I was thinking about this the other day, and I'm like, I wonder how many people I know like now have seen this movie. Who here has seen Repo the Genetic Opera?
I have seen it, but I don't remember as much as I probably should about
It's
it.
been a while since I've seen it, but like I watched that movie with some friends. Like I had a friend, I was working a family video, and I had wanted to see it since like it had originally come out because I'm like the people who made Saw made a musical.
Yes.
It's like I have to see this. Like that sounds insane, and it is. It's fucking nuts. Like it's just such a nutty movie, and it's definitely.
Well, and it starred Anthony Head, right? Anthony Head, however you say that.
I don't remember.
Well, at the time, it was that was big for me because I was a big Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan.
Yes,
And
that's
he
right.
played Giles in Buffy the Vampire
Mhm.
Slayer.
Yeah, that movie's bonkers. Gonna have to find it.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to rewatch it. Yeah.
I'd recommend. I need to give it a rewatch too. It's definitely like an acquired taste because it is like an opera. Like it is like operatic kind of
Yeah.
music. But like if you can just imagine that, like with the craziness of Saul, because the plot line is funny enough. Like it might have been the same year that Repo Men came out with Jude
With
Law and Forrest
Jude Law,
Whitaker.
yeah.
And it
I
was
think
like
it
the
was pretty
same thing
close.
where they repossess people's organs in the future, but one's an opera by the people who made Saul.
Interesting.
Jumping back to the movies that kind of freaked us out, though, a few I can think of, like when I was older, that got under my skin that really freaked me out. Scott Derrickson was responsible for at least two of those. And if anybody asked me what I think the scariest movie of all time is, I'd probably say Sinister without hesitation. Like
That's a good
when I saw that movie in theaters, it stuck with me for days. And
Not really
even
the
now-
movie. Not really the movie itself, but when he's watching the home
Yes.
movies,
yeah,
that yes, very, very
just those parts and a lot of the parts with like Bagul himself as well.
Yeah.
Like in the later parts, the big reveal at the end. Like every kid I saw on a street corner, I'm like, get the fuck away from me, dude. Like, it's just like, man, it stuck with me, and it's one that every time I've watched it since, I'm still just as freaked out every time I watch it. And especially the lawnmower scene, like. It's never gotten easier to watch. Like it's just as creepy as it was the first time.
No,
And
it
like,
was
yeah,
creepy.
like you said, the films within it, like all the snuff films, is really what I think makes it so
so
creepy.
uncomfortable. Yeah, it's so uncomfortable and it's so weird that yeah,
the-
you get to feel what Ethan Hawke is in that
Yeah,
the main dude in it.
yeah.
You feel like you're in his shoes at that point watching those like. Ugh.
You're like, I need a glass of whiskey. My God.
Yeah.
The other one he made though, I went and saw Deliver Us from Evil in theaters with some friends, and I don't know what it was about that movie when we saw it in theaters, but every single one of us that went and saw it were just so freaked out like even the people who didn't smoke cigarettes were smoking cigarettes in the parking lot after because we were all just like stressed. We were just like, man, that was intense. That was a lot.
Yeah, that was a good one too. And like it's kind of funny because I'll have to tell you what happened with me when it came to the exorcism of Emily Rose.
Yeah.
That one, it creeped me out, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, this is pretty creepy. But it was the year and a half to 2 years afterwards that was the creepiest part about it. And I don't want to spoil too much for you since you haven't seen it, but there is an aspect to that where a character wakes up at 3:33 in the morning every morning. It's part of the haunting of this demon. Well, that happened to me for the next year and a half to 2 years. I would wake up almost every single night and look at my clock, whether it was my cell phone or at the time, I think I still had like a nightstand clock, and it would be 3:33, no matter what, just like clockwork for a year and a half. And I would just stay in bed. I'd be like, nope, I don't have to pee that bad. So,
Yeah,
but
I feel that.
that one really did it to me, and that's why I won't watch it again, because I'm not going to put myself through that again.
Yeah, he's made. That's why whenever people ask me what I thought of the Black Phone, I'm like, I was disappointed. Like, because
Were you?
usually Scott Derrickson has me, shivering in my boots, and that one just didn't do it for me.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty decent, but yeah, I could see
Yeah,
that.
it was all right. I enjoyed it. It just for what I
For
expect
him,
out
yeah.
of Scott Derrickson, I wanted more, I guess.
Right.
But another one that I when I first watched it, I watched it in the middle of the day, and it still scared the shit out of me. Was VHS. The
Yeah.
very first time I saw that, I was like, "What is this movie? Like, this is like terrifying." And I feel like what Mercedes is saying here about Tusk being one she won't ever watch again, with the image being engraved in her brain. I feel like there are definitely movies like that too. That's
Tusk,
like a whole other thing. I feel like.
I feel like Tusk gets a lot of crap, but there's some genuinely good moments in that
Mhm.
movie. The one that comes to mind every time that I think is one of the best, like, just scenes that I've seen, from the way it's set up, the dialogue, and just the intensity of it, is that where they're sitting across from each other at the table and just having that conversation, and that always stuck with me in that movie.
Yeah, there's a lot in that movie that just. I only ever saw it the one time in theaters, and it's just still there, like she said, and engraved into my brain. But yeah, are there any movies that you've watched and you're like, okay, I've seen it, and I never need to see this again? Like, I know for me, it's a little different from Tusk, but Antichrist, I saw it once. I can say I saw it. I never want or need to see that shit again.
I mean, there's a couple probably, and for different reasons, because Human Centipede, I've watched all three of those, and I don't really have a need to see them again, especially the second one. I don't. For anybody who hasn't seen it, it takes place in the real world, where the Human Centipede is actually a movie. But there are some things in that I just don't need to watch ever again, and then the third one is just kind of almost humorous because of what it takes place in a prison, and it's just a different type of movie. But there was another one I was thinking of too, and I can't think of what it was. But yeah, Human Centipede would definitely be on that list. There's a couple that I just won't watch again because I just don't like them, and I've been told a couple times that I need to just go back, and maybe I was in a bad spot, but like, I hate Jeepers Creepers and I hate House of a Thousand Corpses. Both of those two movies do nothing for me.
Yeah.
I don't have any desire to ever see them again. And they're,
I actually-
everybody loves them. So
I actually just did a little Rob Zombie marathon. I just rewatched all of his movies. I'm saving the Halloweens for a little closer to
Right.
next week, but it had been a while since I'd seen a lot of them. And House of a Thousand Corpses, the first time I saw it, I didn't get it, and then I saw it another time after that. I'm like, that's still not my favorite. For whatever reason, this last time I watched it, I was like, this is a fucking masterpiece. Like, I don't know why I was like so into it this time, but I'm like, everything clicked for me. I was just like, damn, like I'm really enjoying this right now.
And
Don't
maybe
know
that's
why.
what it is. Maybe it just didn't click with me. There's like, kind of have a thing where, especially with horror, because I feel like horror is it's one of the few genres that has some like real truth to it, in that there's good and there's evil. There's not really a whole lot of gray when it comes to horror. There's the good, then there's the evil, and hopefully good comes out on top. Evil
Right.
might stick around. It's probably going to come back, but
Right.
like they always seem to defeat it. And House of a Thousand Corpses, it was just kind of like they didn't even stand a chance. They just got slaughtered from the very beginning of the movie, and there was no point where they were like, oh, they're up a little bit. It was always just they're down the entire time.
Well, that's what I thought was so interesting watching them back this time because Rob Zombie's Halloween is what like got me into horror. That's what like sent I didn't watch horror before that, and then whatever reason that shifted the course for me. And then shortly after, I saw Devil's Rejects and loved it. And here I am watching this movie like like junior high, early high school, like watching, and it's like I had no business watching this shit at the time. Like, the fact that like watching it now, I'm like, man, I'm picking up so much more than I was then. It's like, uh, but yeah, watching it this time, I'm like, man, these are just some shitty people. Like, man, they are just awful. Then what it's also interesting is the first time I saw the third movie, I was also like, okay. And I still feel like it really didn't need to be made. It's very unnecessary as a film. You could have ended it on Devil's Rejects and been just fine. But all three of them are like totally different movies.
They are, because I
And
didn't hate Devil's Rejects. I actually kind of liked that one. I thought it was pretty decent.
but they're just such like sick fucks, and it's not like you're rooting for them. It's not like one of those. Like I don't know if you saw Saw X or not, but like
I just did, yes.
in
Yeah.
that it's like oddly enough you're rooting for the guy who's putting everybody in these fucking traps, and you're
The
like,
guy
what's going on here? But like Devil's Rejects, you're not rooting for them, but you're just like, man, what are they gonna do next? It's like a train wreck. I don't know.
See, I didn't like House of a Thousand Corpses, and I've said that before because I feel like they just hyped it up too much when it first came out in theaters. Like when they're like, oh, they put it out and it got pulled from theaters because it was just too fucked up and
Yeah.
nobody should see this movie. It's so scary and all this stuff. And I don't know. Like when I went and saw it, I thought, well, the only part that's like kind of like creepy is when he's wearing dude's skin.
Right.
Like that's unnecessary, But other than that, like I was like, this is just every other movie I've ever seen. Like,
Yeah.
So
I feel like this time marathoning them, it was like my qualms and feelings about all of these movies before was like based off the first time I watched them, and because of exactly what you're saying, like the hype or whatever. This time I knew what to expect going into every single one of them, and like was able to enjoy them for what they were this time, which I think made a big difference because I felt the same way about 31 because Rob Zombie hyped the hell out of that thing, being like, "Oh, this is the goriest thing. We're crowdfunding it, so we can do whatever we want." And even this time around watching it, I'm like, this feels so tame compared to even like Halloween. Like it just feels very reserved in a weird way.
Maybe I'll go back and check them out. I don't know. I just thought of another one
I
that
won't twist
actually
anybody's
did.
arm, but
Oh, right. I thought of another one. This one nobody will know what I'm even talking about, but I would have had to have been really young, and this might have been what actually started me on my love for horror. But there was and it's another one that's affected me still to this day, where the effect is that like I don't like my limbs hanging over a bed. Like,
right.
you know what? Like, there was an old movie called, like really old, called Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte, and one of the ending scenes, and I haven't seen it in decades, but I still can't get the picture out of my head. And one of the end scenes is this headless, armless man standing there in front of the main character, and that scene never left me. It's just kind of funny that like just that those type of visuals can affect so much.
Yeah. Hell, when I was a little kid, my parents watched I think Scary Movie 2, and like I caught just like the beginning of it, and they kept trying to tell me, no, it's like a comedy, it's a comedy. I'm like, what's funny about this? And like, all I see is the Exorcist chick, and like that stuck with me forever. So the Exorcist scared me far before I ever even saw the
Even saw
Exorcist. Yeah.
it.
That's funny. That's funny. The things that scare I don't know what movie it would have been, but I do remember seeing a movie where like somebody like in the movie is scared to death, and it's like they're like frozen in place and their hair's all like whited out and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Cause that always freaked me out as a kid, thinking, wait, you can actually be scared to death? Like so fucking scared you die?
I,
I was
But
trying to think
like
of what that was.
birds was one that did freak me out too when I was
Yeah.
a kid.
Oh yeah, yeah. Hitchcock. I
for
mean,
sure.
Hitchcock knew what he was doing, or his wife did, if you believe some of that stuff. I don't know. Like there's always. I've read some stuff where they say that she did a lot more than he did, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's Hitchcock did some really really good films, and Birds is definitely up there.
Yeah, like those
No,
ones that I grew up like Cujo, Birds, all the Pet
Oh yeah.
Cemetery and stuff, anything with animals
Oh,
gone wrong for me when I was a kid, I that freaked me out because I just, even now as an
Pet
adult, if a dog
Cemetery.
comes, if a dog
Di-
runs at me, I'm running. I ain't
Right.
thinking, I'm running.
I think the killer dog in Cujo overshadows the real horror of that movie. Because when I read the book, I was like, wait a minute, because I'd seen the movie before. I was like, is this how the movie ended too? I'm like, this is dark as hell. And then
Yeah.
for whatever reason, a few years back, uh, Cujo was on TV on Christmas, and my family and I were watching Cujo Christmas morning. And sure as shit, it was the same ending. I'm like, man, that is just so dark and sad. Like, what a sad movie this is.
It's a good one. The
Yeah.
you said Pet Cemetery. That reminded me of that. It's the scariest thing in that for me was the sister. That scene where she's got, I think, spinal meningitis, and like she's just in the room, and I don't know why that one always creeped me out more than anything else in that movie. I mean, bringing anybody back to life or whatever, but just that one part with the sister is what creeped me out.
Uh, I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Annihilation with like Natalie Portman and
I don't
a few
think
other
so.
people. Oscar Isaac, I think, is in it too. Um, there was a scene in that movie. I mean, that whole movie, that was one that like I just was like glued to my seat after the credits had rolled. I just like I couldn't move. I had to like just process what I'd just seen. But there's a scene in that movie that even now, every time I watch it, makes my blood run cold because the whole plot of the movie is that there's this thing called the Shimmer, and they go into it, and there's like this alien thing that landed, and it's affecting the environment, and it's like fracturing a lot of things, like people's DNA and stuff, and this bear earlier in the movie kills one of the characters, and later on, this bear like returns and is like somehow combined with like the last moments of this woman, and they're like one of them's snapped and has like the other chicks tied to a chair, and this bear comes in, and like every time it goes to roar, it's this woman's screams, and it like, oh, to this day it just like terrifies me, dude. Like
That
the
would be
sound and
disturbing.
the imagery, I mean, it makes my blood run cold. It's so terrifying, and it's been
That's
a
one of
while.
those movies that I've owned since it came out, and I've never watched it.
Oh, I love it.
I have to give it a shot.
It's so good. It blew my mind when I saw it in theaters. I was just like, wow.
The one
Wow.
that kept me on the edge of my seat the entire time was A Quiet Place.
Yeah.
I thought John Krasinski just killed that. I mean, he killed it with that movie. It's
I've talked about it before. Part two, he went into the stratosphere. I
yeah.
think part two is a masterpiece.
Oh, I do too. Yeah,
It
but
was
that
pretty
first one, I just remember sitting there on the edge of my seat and my pulse just racing the entire time because it just the suspense that he was able to build in that was just incredible.
Yeah.
I like part two. I don't know if I ever saw part one, but I definitely saw part two.
I mean, it definitely speaks to sound design when it comes
Oh,
to
without a doubt.
suspense. Um, Or we'll do a quick plug here for our friend Gela Rediger. She just put out animated a visual story is what they're calling it. It's a short made up of I believe like 43 hand drawn images, and it's only like maybe a little less than 3 minutes long. But like I felt that way. Like my heart started racing. It was very suspenseful, and a lot of that was thanks to our buddy Alex Duquette, who did the sound design for that. I mean, it really took it to the next level. We had the sound bar on, and they recommend everybody watches it with headphones and stuff. And I definitely see why, because I'm like, this thing's only like 2.5 minutes long or whatever, and I'm over here like, what's getting ready to happen? Sound
Oh, that's
design
awesome.
is just incredible to me.
I agree. I agree with that one, brother.
And we're awful at it. So
We'll get
Where
there.
can-
We'll get there
Where
with
can people
time.
check that out?
that is over at Camp Nostalgic Studios. You can check out their YouTube or their Facebook or their website.
I'll have to check it out.
Or their website. Or their website.
The good-
I
the
vibe with
good-
that,
good
dude.
Camp Nostalgic.
Some movies are really good with that. You were saying you like the atmospheric type movies earlier. Those movies are really good with using sound to really, like Skinamarink. When we watch that, like Skinamarink is really
Heavy
plays
on
on weird little mumble parents talking and what the hell is that? I don't know.
I'm going to plead the fifth on that one.
Yeah, well, yeah. It was an experience. We'll say that.
We'll go with that. That works.
I was like,
it
this
was
is something.
It was different, I like
Yeah.
I like switching things up and seeing something different, every now and then.
Oh, I'll watch anything. You were talking about movies that you'll never watch again. That's one of them for me.
Yeah. I vibe with that. I feel like it would be a task. You know what I'm saying? Like it would be like, all right, I'm really gonna commit to this because I know what I'm getting into now. With that.
Oh yeah.
I feel that there are some movies that I'm just like, no.
Well, see, and I was always like that with like, me and Chase have talked on it, like the Paranormal Activity movies. Like, yeah, they're cool, but if I could just skip to the last 15 minutes of this movie, I feel like I will be like, hell yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. And I still haven't watched the last one that they did because I think I kind of got to the point where I was like, all right, yeah, well, we've done this. So
my biggest thing with that, being a fan of that franchise is that they kept I kept going to the movies and they're advertising it at the movies that it's streaming on Paramount Plus. I'm like, you're not even going to do a limited run. You're going to show me this preview on a big screen, and that I thought looked really cool. I thought it looked great up on the big screen. And
was that the latest one?
Yes, and I would have paid to go see it. I'm a fan. And then they put it on Paramount Plus, and I just streamed it somewhere. I was just like, whatever. I don't care anymore. I'm not going to pay for Paramount Plus just to watch this. And then when I did watch it on my computer, I'm just like, I wish I saw it in theaters.
Yeah, there's definitely some movies that have to be seen in theaters to be appreciated, and then some that you can just watch on a small screen and it's not that big a deal.
Like, I saw the new Exorcist movie, and I caught it in IMAX, and I've always said before, it's like everything's better in the IMAX. The shittiest movie I've ever seen was that much better in an IMAX,
Right.
And like I don't think it's as bad as everybody else makes it out to be, but like I think it's just okay. I heard one person say it exists. I'm like, I kind of feel that way too. It's just another Exorcist movie. But in IMAX, like, a lot of it was just that sound design. And plus, I officially figured out the best seat in the IMAX, the pinpoint middle that you just like full immersion.
Where it's all there, yes.
Yeah. And so I was there. That's where I was for Exorcist. I'm like,
I mean, I watched Pandas for an hour in the IMAX. So, and that was interesting. I mean, it was Pandas. Everybody loves Pandas, but
but in
I don't
IMAX,
think I'd sit and watch Pandas at home.
Right.
And be that enthralled.
Right.
There's something off the horror subject, but talking IMAX, I still am mad that like as a kid they had that Michael Jordan IMAX thing they put out. And I wish I could have seen that in an IMAX. But like I think when I was a kid, the IMAXs were in like Chicago had an IMAX.
Right.
That was it.
Yeah,
You
oh
know what I
yeah.
mean?
They weren't anywhere. You had to drive or fly
Yeah.
or go somewhere. There was what 4 or 5 of them all across the country. So probably more
No,
than that, but
I go to the IMAX all the time now. Not so much the last few years, but there was, I forget, I think it was 2021 when things were getting back into the swing
oh,
of it after COVID, and like people hadn't returned to theaters, but movies were. So
yeah.
I was there, and like
Uh,
I saw everything, and I saw a ton of shit. That was probably the most I'd ever gone to the IMAX in a year.
yeah,
That
I
year,
did
I
the
saw
same
everything.
thing. I mean, Top Gun was absolutely amazing in the IMAX. There's no other way to see that movie.
Yeah.
That was
I honestly, I saw Nope in theaters twice, and the first time was IMAX. The second time was just normal, and
better in
that
IMAX.
man, that second time I was watching it, I'm like, man, I am so glad I saw this in IMAX because like he definitely made it to be watched in
For
IMAX,
that.
like and it shows.
Right,
I vibe
right.
with that. Oh yeah, no, I feel that. So when the 3D when if they're 3D IMAX and when all them fucking numbers come at you,
Uh-huh.
I don't that always
Yeah.
makes my eyes go crazy. So I vibe with that.
It was better before I started wearing glasses because that's only been a
Yeah.
last what 5 6 years that I've had to have glasses, and before that, that made it a little bit easier. But yeah,
The thing I've seen in an IMAX a lot that still to this day, just I get a kick out of it, are the people who are watching the same shit I'm watching that's like the immersive sound, and they're like, "Oh my god, this is so loud." But man, let's go ask if they can turn it down. This is what you paid for. You
yeah,
paid to have your eardrums blown out, you
you
know?
came to the wrong theater.
Yeah.
Or the people that I always love the I don't know if you've ever seen this, but like the people that come into a 3D movie and then watch the whole movie without the glasses because they just don't want to wear the glasses anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've
That's got
tried
to
it
be
once.
fun.
It doesn't work. It doesn't
No,
work.
not at all.
No, not the same.
Makes it feel like you're not wearing your glasses if you try to
Yeah,
watch it without
Yeah.
the glasses. It's like it's so blurry.
or that you've had like a fifth of vodka. I mean, it's
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's it
And now
doesn't
at the
work.
theaters, you pretty much can.
Yeah.
Because they got
Right.
bar in it. They got a bar in it.
Yeah, most of them do anymore. I haven't done that yet. I haven't actually drank at a theater yet. I should probably try that at some point in time.
Maybe someday.
I did overseas. They had little theaters or little concession stands in your actual, like if you're in theater screen one, there's like a little concession stand there in the back. So you never had to actually miss the movie if you wanted to go get snacks or anything.
See, that's a
I
great
drank,
idea.
yeah, I got a beer in there and drank a beer in there.
Like
That was
why?
pretty
Why?
cool.
Yeah. Who knows?
Kids do it a lot. I do see the kids take the glasses off and watch movies a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I don't know. I'd be like, if it was my son, I'd be like, put those fucking glasses
What's this
on.
for? I paid for those.
I paid for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I paid extra. Put
Yeah.
them back on.
So we can throw them
Well-
away in that box when we leave.
Oh, I always kept
Yeah.
them. I kept every pair. I never
Every-
threw them away.
I quit keeping them. I like after a while. I was like, why am I taking this shit home? I don't own a 3D TV. You know why am I?
Well, I was at the time. I think I was hoping that they would come out with that 3D TV that worked with those glasses, and then of course they did.
Yeah.
And now I don't even know where any of them are. What'd Mercedes say?
She said, yes, we did that in Texas. There was tables connected to the wall and was in front of your seat, and we ordered steak beer.
That's
A
awesome.
steak and beer. I'd
Steak
love
and
that.
beer. That's pretty dope.
It'd be a nice
I've never
way to
gone
watch-
to one of those, but I also feel like I wouldn't like one of those.
Yeah, I
Like
haven't
one of
gone
those-
to them either.
I'd be too distracted.
Too
It's,
distracting.
it's like I don't come to the theater for this. I can get this at home. The the constant distraction. All right, it's about that time to start wrapping
About
it up.
that time.
So one time for the mind. Who'd like to go first with the closing thoughts tonight?
One time for the mind. It's getting close, buddy. It's getting close to Halloween. So start getting those classics a rolling and get your reels going, get the projector on the screen. Watch all your favorite classics. That's my one time for the mind because that's what I want to do.
I'm probably just going to second that because that's kind of where I've been at this week as well. We finally come to the downslide of all of our October busyness and everything, and now it's just time to prop up our feet and watch our favorite spooky flicks. Enjoy the rest of the month.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it's that time of year. It's one of my favorites. I guess I'd say like go to Scareplex and watch Chase and Shep. Watch them get exercised.
Hmm.
'Cause that's it's all on there, and there's plenty of other good movies on there as well. So
It is
It's
legit.
true. It's all
For the
there.
price it is, you get a ton. You know what I'm
for the
saying?
price, and I mean, I think it's I fell in love with the project because of what we were trying to do, and that was to lift up independent filmmakers. That was what was that's always been the most important thing for it when it comes to Scareplex for me is that there's a lot of filmmakers out there and a lot of films out there that people don't normally see every day because they're not available on Netflix or Amazon, and they're available on Scareplex. So
Right.
$2.
Oh, we've enjoyed being there. We've said for a while, YouTube is such a general space. If we could just find our audience and be put down right in front of them, I
Right.
feel like that would help a lot. And there have been a lot of people who have found this thanks to Scareplex. So everybody should definitely head on over there, check it out.
Get on over there. Leave us a comment. Say we came from the stream.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
All
Well,
right, guys.
that'll do it. That'll
All
do
right,
it.
man.
Next week, we got Ron Chevry joining us again. Always a good time to
Ron.
kick off Halloween. So
Pretty much. Yeah. Day before.
we'll
That'll be
catch y'all
great.
next week.
All right, man. Smooches, deuces. Y'all have a great